Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Phil. Today we're going to talk about the different types of bikes you can choose from when you're shopping for a bike, whether it's your first bike and you're not sure what to get, or if you're getting a second or third bike and you can't decide which style to get, then this is going to help narrow down those choices. Picking out the right style of bike can be a daunting task, especially if you're a new rider. There are lots of different categories of bikes out there and several different factors to consider. One of the first factors to consider is what we call the rider's triangle. The rider's triangle is basically a way of describing the correlation between the position of your feet, your hands, and your rear end. There are three primary rider triangles with variations inside of those. One of the best ways to narrow down your bike choice is to decide which rider triangle you want, what position you want to be sitting in when you're on the bike, since that helps to narrow down your choices. First is the aggressive triangle. Best example of this is a sports bike where your feet are tucked behind you and your hands are down low close to your waist, which means you're leaning forward a decent amount. This is also used for racing on the track. Next is the upright triangle. There are a ton of bike options here. You have naked bikes, off-road bikes, adventure bikes, and some cruisers that are upright as far as the seating position. Your feet are basically underneath you and hands are below the shoulders. There's a lot of variety in here. You have slightly more aggressive upright positions when it comes to things like off-road, motocross bikes, stuff like that, or the more relaxed upright positions like some of the cruisers, the small cruisers. And last is the relaxed position, the relaxed triangle. This is common for your big touring bikes. This is where your feet are out in front of you and your hands are at a comfortable height and your back is much straighter and more relaxed. Another factor in deciding what kind of bike to get is what you want to do with it. Do you want to just use it for commuting and in-town riding? Or do you want to go off-road, maybe dirt track competition riding? Do you want to go on relaxed short day rides? Or are you geared more for speed and want to take a bike out to the track? Do you want a bike that's going to be able to go long distance and go off-road? Or do you want to take a multi-day long highway trip with someone traveling with you? Deciding what you want to do with your bike is going to be the biggest decision on what bike to get. So let's talk about the different categories of bikes here and what they're used for, and we're going to look at some examples in each category. This obviously is not a comprehensive list, but it gives a good idea of all the different types that are available. First, you have your commuter bikes. These are designed for short in-town riding. They're not high-powered bikes. They're not designed for long rides or aggressive riding. Most of these can be ridden on the highway, but they aren't designed for long highway comfort. In here you have scooters, such as the Yamaha Zuma or the Suzuki Bergman, which are very practical and easy to ride. You have mini bikes, such as the Honda Grom and the Honda Monkey, which are designed more for fun and just tooling around. You have your small electric bikes that are often pedal assisted, such as the Indian Hooligan, and your full-size electric bikes like the Livewire. I call those commuter bikes because of the mile range with the battery. You have your small cruisers and retro cruisers like the Royal Enfield 350, the Triumph Bonneville, the Honda Rebel 300, those kinds of bikes as well. The next category we're going to look at is the off-road category, and there are a lot of different subcategories here. These bikes have very high seat heights in order to get lots of ground clearance and are lightweight and very nimble. They have smaller engines and small gas tanks to keep the weight down. First, we have the Trials bikes. When I did my 2023 lineup series, I only saw one Trials bike listed in the entire set of bikes that I ran, and that was the 2022 Honda Montesa. These bikes are designed solely for obstacle course riding. They do not even have seats on them. You have to stand the entire time you're riding them. Next are the trails and cross-country bikes, such as the Honda CRF 250RX, the Yamaha YZ 250X, or the Kawasaki KLX 230R. Obviously, there's a lot of different varieties in there in terms of engine size. Those are just 3 that I picked out. These are off-road only bikes. They're not necessarily designed for competition, but they can be used for some competition if you like. Then you have the off-road bikes that are designed for competition, the motocross bikes like the Kawasaki KX250 and the Suzuki RMZ250. And last, you have the bikes that are both off-road and street legal bikes, which are your dual sport enduro and supermoto bikes, like the Honda CRF 450RL and the Suzuki DRZ 400SM. While we're on the topic of off-road bikes, let's talk about adventure bikes. These are off-road and street legal. They are much heavier and bigger than their dual sport counterparts. They have bigger engines and gas tanks for long distance riding. This is broken down into 2 categories. You've got your regular adventure bikes or ADV bikes like the Honda Africa Twin and the Honda NC 750 or the Yamaha Tenere 700. The other category is the adventure touring bikes. These are even bigger. They're designed for long rides, for comfortable rides, usually have lots of storage on them, like the BMW R1250 GS and the Harley Davidson Pan America 1250. So now we're going to move to sport bikes. These are designed for aggressive, fast riding with lots of different options. You have your naked bikes. There's a ton of these out there. They're basically sport bikes, but without the big fairing on the front. Examples for this are your Yamaha MT-07, MT-09, Suzuki SV650, the Honda CB300R, the Indian FTR, the KTM 890, Duke R. There's a lot of them out there. Then there's the regular sport bikes, like the Kawasaki Ninja series, the Honda CBR RR series, the Yamaha R1 and R3 series, the Suzuki GSX or Gixxer series, and lots more of those as well. Kick up the power on these guys and you have the hypersport or super sport bikes, such as the Suzuki Hayabusa, the Kawasaki Ninja H2, the BMW M1000RR, etc. Some of these bikes are track racing only bikes. They're not even street legal and they are very expensive. You also have the sport touring category. These are slightly less aggressive sport bikes that are designed to be able to handle longer rides and often have saddlebags with them. The Kawasaki Versys sort of fits in this category, although it's kind of a mix between a sport touring and an adventure touring bike. The Yamaha FJR 1300 and the Tracer 9GT, the BMW R1250 RT, the KTM Super Duke 1290 are all good examples of sport touring bikes. Bridging the gap between sport bikes and the cruisers are a handful of bikes that kind of stand out on their own. I call them sport cruisers, like the Harley Davidson Sportster and Nightster. The Ducati X Diavo I think would fit in this category. And honestly, I would put the Honda Rebel 500 and 1100 in this category as well. The Honda Rebels are labeled as cruisers, but to me they don't look like regular cruisers. They look like some sort of weird mix between a cruiser and a naked bike. So I put them in the sport cruiser category, kind of that halfway between a sport touring and a cruiser bike. That's just my opinion on those. We have the cruisers. There are 4 subcategories of cruisers. First is the lightweight cruisers, so those around the 500 to 650 pounds. Good examples are the Indian Scout, the Suzuki Boulevard C50, the Kawasaki Vulcan S, and the Vulcan 900. Next are the midweight cruisers. These range from 650 to about 750 pounds. Lots of examples here: the Indian Chief, the Harley Softail lineup, which has several bikes in it, the Suzuki Boulevard M109 Boss, etc. Then there's the bagger category, around the 750 to 850 pound range. Lots to choose from here as well. The Kawasaki Vaquero 1700, the Indian Chieftain and Challenger, the Harley Road Glide and Street Glide, etc. all kind of fit in that bagger range. And then we have the full dresser category, the last of the cruisers. These range from 850 on up as far as weight, generally 850 to 950, because they have the touring pack on the back. These are for long highway multi-day trips. These are the Kawasaki Vaquero Voyager, the Indian Roadmaster and Pursuit, the Harley Road Glide Limited, Ultra Limited, CVO, etc. And the last option to consider with bikes is the three-wheelers. There are some folks who you get to a point where handling two wheels isn't really comfortable anymore, or you want a lot more storage than what a regular touring bike can offer, something along those lines. Whatever it may be, there are actually three different types of three-wheeled vehicles. First, we have the Can-Am, which is a reverse trike, which means two wheels up front, one in the back. We also have the Polaris Slingshot, which is a reverse trike, but is basically a reverse trike car. Has a regular steering wheel, so on and so forth. And then we have the regular trikes, which are almost exclusively available from Harley. They have 3 models out now, I believe. Although I think I have seen some Honda Goldwings that are modified into trikes. And I know that there are companies that will take a Goldwing and make it a trike for you. Probably expensive, but if you can afford a Goldwing, you can probably afford the trike modifications. So there's a lot of information there on the different categories of bikes, but it certainly helps to narrow it down based on what type of riding you want to do, and helps to know how the bikes fit into that style of riding that you're looking for. The last piece when it comes to deciding what kind of bike to purchase is to go to a dealer and sit on the bikes themselves. Visualize what type of riding you want to do, and then go sit on some of the bikes that fit in that style of riding, and visualize yourself riding that bike. See if it fits into what you're picturing. Some dealers will offer test rides, but some do not. But even if you're at a dealer where they don't, you can at least get an idea of what appeals to you, what feels good to sit on, and what is comfortable. So for anyone looking for a new bike and you're not sure what to get, I hope this helps. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.